Welcome to the third program, Neo-Pharmacopoeia and the Magical Body. Witchcraft in early modern Europe was found within the domain of household and health. The persecution of these activities use of not only beliefs and old spiritual traditions, but also folk medicine and healing. Witchcraft is the practice of magical skills, spells, and herbal abilities that come out of a living and embodied relationship with energy and matter. This entails the knowledge and skills of communing with, amongst other plant beings, as real and living entities. The body as a magical entity allows for special conditions where art becomes time. In the midst of a global health crisis, we ask, what are the points of convergence between witchcraft trials in the Middle Ages and today's world health crisis? How can we reimagine pharmacopeias nowadays? Invisible Drum is an artistic research platform investigating holistic practices and spiritual technologies within the field of art and new ecologies. Invisible Drum studies animistic practices within transdisciplinary fields of knowledge, encompassing amongst other the arts, creative ecologies, technology, embodied cognition, healing practices, speculative design, herbology, and ethnobotany. The researchers and artists involved in this project are Marita Isabel Solberg, Amalia Fanfara, Nazaré Suarez, Alexandres Makos, and Jessica Ullevål-Sæther.
I ask for permission to awake the memory. I ask for permission to enter the histories, the stories. I ask for guidance. Thank you. I am the medicine knowledge. The Sami, sorceress in Norwegian history. Rune Blixhagen, sorcery, persecution of the Sami. The Sami shaman, Anders Poulsens, who practiced reindeer husbandry, was apprehended in the, what is apprehended? What is apprehended? Apprehended. How do you say that?
You say it's like
apprehended in the nearby area of Baranga on December 7, 1691, and taken to Batsu, and the administrative center of Finnmark at that time. Local persecutors in the fishing community were waiting to question their arrest. The assistant of Batso, a Sami sheriff, as well as some other Sami, carried out the apprehension. The young
Magic.
bailiff and district judge of the Finnmark.
This must be magic. Magic is the faculty of wonderful virtue, full of high mysteries, containing the most profound contemplation of most secret things, nature, power, quality, substance, and virtue thereof. This produced the wonderful effect by uniting virtues of things, joining and knitting them together thoroughly, and virtues of the superior bodies. This is the most perfect science, that sacred and sublime kind of philosophy. And lastly, the most suitable perfection of all most excellent philosophies.
Altså, jeg tenker
1522 Agrippa.
på alle stemmene. Alle stemmene her på jorda. Alle stemmene i universet. Så tenker jeg på hvordan de høres ut hvis vi hadde hørt dem samtidig. Jorden synger om at sitte ute for at søke kraft og innsikt, om at munde flæse naturen, sanse og samle, og følge nattens tyste råd. Da jeg satt ute i stenkretsen den solvervsaften, forstod jeg den hornede grantrolls lydløse beskjed. Uglens kredsen og revens efterladenskaper, stenens gamle ansikt, ja, alt hva jeg har oppfattet og sanset det som meningsfulle meddelelser fra en aldeles bevisst natur.
Rise, rise, my guardian from thy luvie. Rise, my guardian from thy luvie. Wake my spirit once again. Once again. From under your tree, a hat on your head. From under your stone, a mitten on your hand. Rise, my guardian, once again. My spirit, wake.
Women are evil, weak, and intellectually below men.
Nei.
This is why they are easy bait for the devil.
Du, det
When a
ikke
female thinks alone, she's
Jesse?
evil.
det nok. Ok.
Witchhammer, 1487.
Part 1, Storms and Witchcraft in International Correspondence. The Danish naval fleet turns back. The witchcraft against the king's ships in 1589 is remarkable. Here is the prehistory. On 20th of August of 1589, Princess Anne, the second eldest daughter of Frederick II, married King James VI of Scotland per procureur at Kronborg Castle in Denmark. The Scottish Lord Mareschal stood in the King James on 1st of September of 1589. Princess Anne left her homeland to travel to Scotland. Her ship, the Gideon, was part of the Danish naval fleet.
Var det da den stormen tok alle båtene, og de ikke kom frem? When he is called to perform a cure, the Trem-Yugan shaman begins beating his drum and playing the guitar until he falls into ecstasy. Abandoning his body, his soul enters the underworld and goes in search of the patient's soul. He persuades the dead to let him bring it back to earth by promising them the gift of a shirt or other things. Sometimes, however, he is obliged to use more forcible means. When he wakes from ecstasy, the shaman has the patient's soul in his closed right hand and replaces it in the body through the right ear.
I can make wind. 1612 from Vardehus. The boats never arrived, no way.
Mugwort is one of the herbs that belongs to witchcraft. There are reports from France, Germany, and Russia in particular of the use of mugwort as protection against witchcraft. In order to be particularly effective, the herb should be picked on summer solstice by the 12th, before 12th at night. It is said that just by wearing mugwort, you will be protected from poisonous attacks and wild animals, that no harm will come to you. You will be protected by the sun.
Men det viktig å plukke urter på rett tidspunkt, sånn at man får de beste stoffene ut ifra urten, og husk å spørre om lov.
In a drink of mugwort, which she drank, after that, things changed because of the drink. Twice she felt unwell in her head. When she got the drink, and learned the witchcraft, she was a grown-up maid. And some 3 weeks later, that nasty Satan came to her in the likeness of a black dog. And that same black dog asked her to serve him and forswear God in heaven. For then she would get anything she wanted. Afterwards, about a day later, or 2 or 3, she tried the evil craft of one of her own lambs, spitting on the lamb in the name of the evil one, saying, "Burst asunder in the name of devil."
After 1570, there is no doubt. The intellectual witch study, demonology, enter its prime time, and the witch hunt starts. The scholarized witch expert of its time describes the witch as darker than in the 1400s. From the 1500s, the trolls and the supernatural beings of nature are far more aggressive and dangerous than before. Now, it's only the individual. It's not only the individual, but masses of people who conspire magic. Witchcraft is now a great conspiracy against Christianity.
Altså, jeg tenker enda på de her sangene. Hvor kommer de fra? The second night of my vision quest, I was feeling a little dizzy. I was used to fasting, but the energy coming into the lodge was intense. I went into the cabin to rest. As I closed my eyes, a stream of images reeled past them people, places, things that I couldn't quite recognize, although they seemed familiar somehow. In the lower right corner of my vision screen, there was the image of a campfire.
The third part, relating to the judicial proceedings. Question 1, general and introductory. Who are fit for proper judges in the trial of witches? The first head. Question 1, the method of initiating a process. Question 2, of the number of witnesses. Question 3, of the solemn adoration of examination of witnesses. Question 5, whether mortal enemies may be admitted as witnesses. The second head. Question 6, how the trials in the proceeded with the is proceeded to be continued, and how the witnesses are to be examined in the process of 4 other persons, and who are accused to be questioned in the 2 ways.
To bind her mouth in the courtroom.
From my conversation with Alexander, I can see, well, yes, see. The oldest known illustration woodcut of ergot is located in the book titled Theatrum Botanicum Sive Historian Planetarium, Botanical Theater of the History of the Plant from 1656, edited by the son of Caspar Bauhin. Where in some villages only 5 out of 120 people survive, it is implied that ergo may be responsible for well-known choreomania, dancing plague, dancing plague. The phenomenon when villagers in medieval period in Europe were falling into an involuntary dance. This is from Alexander Smakowski, From Obstetrics to LSCD, A Natural History of Ergot.
But if they caught me in the courtroom, I'd gladly save myself with the help of magic. I'd say, as I enter the door, as I open the room, I would say, now I open the door and I will see my opponent. I will bind his mouth and tongue and heart and liver and lung, and I will go forth and he'll be held back. I will go forth in the name of the 3 devils.
Altså, jeg tenker enda på de her stemmene. Og så tenkte jeg at dere sitter på noen konvolutter. Så jeg tenkte at dere skulle åpne konvolutten, og så finne lappen som er inne der. Og dere også. Dere må være med. Finn dere en konvolutt. Og så er dere fri til å formidle det på hvilken måte dere vil. Vi ser hvor lenge. Vi bare starter, tenker jeg.
Water is the oldest of brothers. Iron is the youngest of brothers.
Can you hear the sounds of life? In the
Hører
roaring
du
of a
livets
creek,
stemme
in the blowing of a wind.
I elvens
That is
brøl?
all I want to say. That is all.
That
is all I want to say.
Of brothers, iron is the youngest of brothers.
Can you hear the sounds of life? Can you hear the sounds of life?
Water is the oldest of brothers. Iron is the
Can you hear the sounds of life?
youngest of brothers. Water is the oldest of brothers.
And then there's a
Iron is
black
the
book.
youngest of brothers.
And there's a black books.
Water is crucial knowledge.
What is a black book?
With washing and purification. After
Black
ateliers
books.
and other life cycle passages, but also in
Collections of
connection
magic
with
found
sickness and
in Europe,
disease.
In
Past
Scandinavia.
hidden springs
Black
were
book.
often
Or it's called
subject to the names
Cyprianus. Who is Cyprianus?
and on the
Book
back
of the
of
Free
the
Arts.
river.
1529.
Men finnes det en hvit
These are
bok?
waters
Finnes det en hvit
that
bok?
runs into
Found
the
in a
river
marble chest in the
with the
Wittenberg
sanctuary
Academy
of the
in
nymphs at the
1520.
spree.
This
If
book,
you wash
normally
the
called the
spree,
Black
you
Book,
can be
was
cured
first written by Bishop of Oxford
of
in
all
Germany,
kind of acts,
and his name was Johannes Ill,
of all
Johannes
kind of
Fire.
acts.
This book has been printed in monk style. Its name was Secret. This book has the secrets of the Jewish Kabbalah, and so this book is superior to other Cyprianus. The Black Book in itself is not so dangerous as one imagines and has no sin, but no one can learn the art of demonology without attending the Academy
As the
of
flame did grow
Wittenberg.
in bulk and gan for to increase, so did the waxen image by small and small decrease. I marked the drabbish sorcerers and heard their dismal spells. She woes to their doom the absent. Woes to the doom the absent fashions the waxen image, and into its wretched heart drives the slender needle. From a discovery made by a certain harlot, whose mother was noted for a witch, detected the whole conspiracy, for the young girl being apprehended and brought to the rack.
From Mary Jester, from Mary. What is Mary? How do you say
Jesta is one of, she will teach
Yes,
us about
I know,
herbs.
but is how you say her surname?
Jesta. I
Jarstad.
think we could ask her. though.
Mary Jarstad.
Is she here now?
I think she's
Ah,
there.
yes. So what is how do you pronounce your surname? Jarstad. All rose species have a specialness. I'm sure you both have a personal relation to the plant and I love dog rose and find it interesting how it was used for a much wider range of conditions back in the day, compared with many modern herbalists. Roses are mildly cooling and drying, and they have affinity to the heart. Nicholas Culpeper, do you say that? Nicholas Culpeper, my favorite from 1600, understand red roses as governed by Jupiter, damask roses governed by Venus, and white roses by the moon. In ritual, rose petals are used in hand fasting, scattered on bedding,
So
in the hair, and rose water
So you see,
is used in the food and on the body to give
Har du
emphasis
et personlig
to the
spørsmål
heart
eller et
and as a
problem?
gentle aphrodisiac.
3 cups.
so you see
Rose
that
is
the one who loves
natural
science
to
can use
have an
Cyprianus
herbal mix
Altså, du
for
kan
women
gripe det
have
an på
been
flere
through
måter, i hvert
sexual
fall.
as a gift,
trauma
necessity, or
after a
curiosity.
challenging birth
Du kan overveie det logisk,
So they
og du
observe
kan bruke dine drømmer.
how powerful the word of God is and his power.
Du kan gå til psykolog, og du kan også gå til bølgene.
If you can see
Til
the
en
word of
stein
God
eller
here,
til et tre.
if you can see the word of God
Spørre om
here,
lov.
you have passed the test. And if you help your kin once in a while, it's no sin. But if you can use the vulgar art, it's a terrible crime.
Å gå i naturen for å hente hjelp og visdom.
It's a
Spenner
greater
over
love.
kjempemessig skala i intensitet. Fra vilt til mildt. Fra sjamaner og andre trollkyndige folks heftige visjonssøkning med transe til alminnelige menneskers varselstavtagning som et magisk verktøy i husholdninga, eller deres rådslagninger med naturen som små hellige øyne i hverdagen.
Question 10. What kind of defense may be allowed for the appointment of an advocate? This is the fifth action. Question 11. What cause the advocate should adopt when the name of the witnesses are not revealed to him? This is the sixth action. Question 12. Of the same matter, declaring more particularly how the question of the person admitted is to be investigated. This is the seventh action.
According to archives from the court of law, around 100,000 people were accused of witchcraft. Around half of these people were sentenced to death. 45,000 people were burned or executed in other ways. In general, 80% of the accused were women. Europe has a long tradition of persecuting and demonizing minority groups.
But it was not only women.
But historically, the witch hunts as persecution was not new to Europe. But the difference is that these crimes were attached to women specifically.
There were also men, you know.
So 80%.
The black books were made by men.
But the mystery is that a third
And then by
tradition?
monks, right? Mainly.
What happened with the Christian side of the story?
Ah, interesting. I find out.
What is superstition? What is religion?
There is no superstition.
What is faith?
Rise, my guardian.
Wake
my spirit. Wake my spirit once again.
Where is the book about Christianity? I can't find it.
Ancient magic sometimes speaks explicitly of the binding and unbinding of prisoners, a function which will find a further and particularly striking parallel in Christian magic. Greek magic also speaks of binding the fate of a person by driving copper needles into a wax or clay figurine, and we have both archaeological and hagiographical evidence to prove that this was indeed done. The word defixio most often represent a kind of binding curse. Defixiones were frequently found written upon a lead tablet and buried in a cold place, perhaps in a well. The children which hoped the victim would be transferred
Utmaner deg og ganske riktig utsletter deg fra marg og bein, fra bein til kjøtt, fra kjøtt til blod, fra blod til skinn, fra skinn til hud, fra hud til vær og vind, så ikke noe ondt skal komme her inn. I Faderen, Sønnen og den hellige ånds navn.
Also, the indictments against the Jutland witches concentrated on maleficium. Maleficium.
The witch hammer?
The witch hammer. No.
We have it here.
Wow.
I think this is a scary.
Yes, I
Why
should
is it
not open. Okay, let's make some protection for that.
I don't want to read that.
Do you want me to read it for you?
No, just let me burn some baby. Maybe someone else wants to be read for it.
Milk,
Moet je derde daar komen?
demons,
Order.
and the witch
Yeah,
hammer
order.
intensified things in Europe.
Malurt.
This book that defined the witch and the witch hunt and the going against the women.
Jeg skjønner ikke hvorfor du tok den ned.
It's interesting, you know.
It's important to understand what actually happened and why.
It happened in history, you know.
If you protect yourself, it's not going to harm you.
It's part of our history.
It's part of our history.
I can choose what information I want to read. Okay. And the knowledge is everything. I think wisdom. The plants. We were talking about the dog, and I found something here. The mythology of the dog is fully treated in the work by Freda Kretschmar. Shamanism proper introduced no innovations in this direction. The shaman encounters the funerary dog in the course of his descent to the underworld, as it is encountered by the deceased or by heroes undergoing an initiatory ordeal. It is especially the secret societies based on martial initiation, insofar as their ecstasies and frantic ceremonies can be termed shamanic, that developed the reinterpreted the mythology and magic of the dog and the wolf.
The underworld. Demeter.
We were going to have a dog here, but
Didn't we talk about Ergot before?
we have no dog.
Going down to the underworld.
But Odin did that.
Demeter.
He did that, and he.
Odin.
No,
Yes.
because the white wolf that I saw first time in my dreams long ago, and then he manifested, and then when I went to Tromsø, I saw her again, and in Trondheim, and then I met her, but she was not feeling like being exposed, so she decided just meet us in private.
Even though the Reformation in Norway was quite brutally implemented within a short period of time, the execution of specific reforms within religion and religious institutions took time. One rather urgent need of the new Protestant Danish Norwegian state was to advocate for the new Lutheran religion through properly educated ministers. The education of Norwegians was
Plans of
challenged.
memory.
And the
Memory is
Norwegian
water.
ministers at the University of Copenhagen and
Memory
other
is
This is
what?
Muckworth. Smell it. It's the grandmother herb.
Oh. Artemisa. So the ancients, however, though that all rivers were not healing and this water source could be polluted, Pausanias is convinced that the peculiar smell of the anigros comes from the earth in which the water rises, just as a breath of certain waters beyond Ionia is fatal to human beings for the same reasons. Different explanations were given for this smell, and some believe that the river was polluted and the purification of Proton's daughters when the items infected and their purification were thrown in the river. Accordingly, the next two sections will examine some myths about virgins.
During this period, several European cities became known as central places for different fields of knowledge. Paris was associated with the liberal arts, Bologna with law, and Salerno with medicine. Toledo had gained a reputation during the Middle Ages as a city of demons and the black arts. Also, within the realm of legendary traditions, Wittenberg was said to hold the sixth and the seventh book of Moses, in which the Black Book was to be found, according to traditions collecting from Valdres in Norway.
May figure as an ancestor, because moisture is necessary for the growth.
Men svarteboka er jo mange
Rivers and
bøker.
spring are also
There is no
associated.
doubt
How
that
do we see
legends
the
created
inside of
bonds and
plants?
generated notions about
Can we
Wittenberg's
that?
occult and necessary qualities.
Can we see the inside of the world?
There are many black books,
What does it have to tell us
but there's only one black book.
when we look?
Cyprianus,
When we truly look,
the legend from the 300 in Greece.
there's so much there to tell us.
Or maybe it was a lost poem of Homer.
Nothing is ever lost.
Or was he a saint? He saved
You need some
Justina.
water.
But how come the ancient always looked to a mythological reality? To the mythological reality to verify truth. Or as the Egyptians call it, mat, the real truth behind. And what about Egypt?
Hellige vand, hellige vand, hellige vand. Sacred waters, bearer of our memories.
Water. Mm. Offering, okay. There was also the custom to offer to rivers and springs animals that were with testicles. Accordingly, just as initiation is about the allocation of civic identity and the perpetuation of the community. Rivers and springs frequently figure in the rites and mythologies that mark rites of passages for maiden and youth.
Vannet. Ja, det vannet, det
The very notion that
The
some
one-
bases
oppe på fjellet. Det er vann under fjellet. Det er vann inni alle planter, alle mennesker. Det er vann oppe i skyene. Og det er vann på myra, så nede i mosen er masse vann. Vannet går gjennom alt. Vannet gir liv, og vannet renser. Hva det var du sa, Amalie?
I can't remember.
Du sa noe fint.
Something about water. If it has memory.
Det var hvis det har minne.
Do you think it has memory?
Jeg tror
Do we really need to read all the books to know the memories of water? How do we find that?
Men vi må jo drikke vannet. Vi må i hvert fall drikke det.
the very notion that some bases may have been made to communicate such messages to the citizens, women, implies that women were indeed going out of the house. Otherwise, they could not have been accosted and certainly needed to be warned. In the stretch, the imagination to support that the social guideline so specific as avoid the fountain house could be suggested before the potential problem arose. It should be noted on the other hand that Yeah, the vessels, the containers, the vessels, sorry, the vessels, the containers, they contain the water. What are they made from?
It depends.
Yeah,
It can be made of ceramics,
yeah, or
mm,
plastic.
metal, plastic,
Mm,
glass.
glass.
Can be like what do you
Iron.
call it? The roots from birch tree,
Birch tree,
maybe.
a
Maybe
land,
a stomach, or
earth,
everything is actually
blood. Everything is water.
containing water.
Water is the oldest of brothers, and iron is the youngest of brothers. Mm.
An
I
evil
want water.
woman is the devil's doornail. Ontkina ardevishin dura nagil. One of the many questions that curious expressions bring to mind is just what would have meant by the expression an evil woman, a phrase fraught with meaning for how we understand witch and other gender-related questions in medieval Scandinavia. Why don't you want to talk about it?
What is there to talk about?
Why we are here today in this way.
We are here because of history.
So
Or are we?
Although the place of a woman in the Nordic Middle Ages has been the subject of much attention in recent years, scholarly focus has tended to center on literary images with their
Who is telling this? Who is telling
too
history?
academic for me. This is too
Hey
academic.
girls, who is telling the story? What is history?
and soul and energy. Huh?
Ah, yeah,
Academy is
yeah.
telling the
Because I
history.
think that's why we are here, for just to find out if there is other history, right? Or I don't know. What do you think?
But history is strange because everything can be true and doesn't have to be true. And it depends on who tells it and who listens to it.
But what is true?
So is the truth what is in the archives? And what is the archives then?
Toque de campanas, toque de campanas. Toque de campanas, toque de campanas, para que despierten las sacerdotisas. Toque de campanas, para que despierten las sacerdotisas. ¿Dónde está Marita? Where is Marita? You black witch. Thank you very much. Thank you.